so today we just wanted to have a little bit of fun. And John was coming to the area, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be around Super Bowl Sunday. I'm like, come speak at Champion Life Church. And he offered to do that. So thank you. Man, you can be anywhere. He preaches in churches of 10,000 people, and he comes to Champion Life Church in Beaver County, right? In Eastern Ohio, baby. What's special? Awesome. So, hey, I want you to prepare your heart. I want you to close your eyes for a moment as John comes on up. And I just want you to say this prayer with me. Expect today. Say, Father God, I thank you for your love. You have a word for me today. Touch my heart. Thank you for saving me. And may your favor rest upon me. In Jesus' name. Hey, give it up for John, all right? Come on, guys. Yes. Thank you, buddy.
It's good to be back. I was here about 2 years ago. So for those who don't know what I do school assemblies, as Larry just said. I was just at a thing in D.C., and everybody go, what do you do for a living? I go, I'm a model. And so, the before picture, Jenny Craig. But it's just, so anyway, so I do school assemblies. We do it all over the world. So we speak to about 150,000 students in the United States, and we're overseas almost every month. And so we get to go to a lot of different places. I was just, this last year, I was in Ukraine for the second time since the war. The country I go to the most is Israel. So I go to a lot of hot spots like, Middle East, war zones, Darlington. And so, but last time I was here, I rolled up a frying pan. And so that's when my claim to fame is because I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records for that, for rolling up frying pans. I tell everybody that because I'm insecure. That's why my hair's like this at my age. But, and so the other thing I do is I break baseball bats. I did not do that last time I was here because I just had 2 shoulder surgeries. And so I'm back to breaking baseball bats now. Yeah, thanks for clapping. I appreciate that. You got my little fan section. That's awesome. I'm going to date myself right now from 1994 to 2006. The guy who mentored me and myself were the chaplains for the Oakland A's baseball team. And there was 2 guys on our teams that got us to break baseball bats. They said, hey, if you break a bat, we'll come watch you guys. It was Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco. And so I am dating myself big time right now, yeah. For those who don't know who they are, Mark McGwire is a retired baseball player. Jose Canseco is an author. And he wrote a book about steroids, got everybody in trouble. And we all knew everybody was taking them, but whatever. And so I'm going to break a bat over my leg. I just need a volunteer. And there was a young man who was really nice to me. He had a jersey on. I think he's sitting right there, number 9. Or 9D? Is it 9D? Yeah, I'm dyslexic. Yeah, come here. Yeah, come here. Yeah. I talked to you earlier. Yeah, it was super kind to me. It was in the bathroom. It was awkward. That was, what's your name again?
Ethan.
Ethan. Okay, so you say you're rooting for the Eagles. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Someone asked me who I was rooting for. I said the commercials. And so, what grade are you in?
6th grade.
You're in 6th grade. Where do you go to school?
Dutch Ridge.
Okay, awesome. So this is a real baseball bat, I promise you. I'm going to hold on to it. I was at a school, someone hit the ground with it, so I always hold on to it. I just want you to grab and feel it. You make sure it's real, it's not fake or anything. Is it real?
Yeah, it's real.
Okay, cool. You better say that. You're going to give me a countdown from 10. Like I worked with the Oakland A's. What's your favorite baseball team? The A's. Awesome. Thank you. We appreciate it. What, the Pirates?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's actually how I started speaking here in Pittsburgh. I was doing a camp in Jamonville. I hope I said that right. Yeah. And the A's were playing the Pirates. It was the first time they had interleague play, so it was like 2002 or something like that. And I came up and I brought some of the ball players to Zielinopol to do a camp for kids with CSI. And that's how I started coming and speaking this whole area, doing school assemblies. So it goes way back. Anyways, yeah, that's a lot of things you probably didn't even know about. So you're going to give me a countdown from 10. I'm going to break this over my leg, okay? Are you ready?
Sure.
Are you fired up?
Yeah.
You're excited?
Uh-huh.
You having fun?
Mm-hmm.
Are you lying?
No.
Okay, good. Because you're in church. Okay, so here we go. Give me a countdown from 10. 10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah!
Give my friend a big hand. We got the music to work this time. That was totally my fault. Rehearsal went late. Great. I want to share today. I'm not going to be very long. I'm not a long speaker. The only thing between you and a good lunch is me. And so I just want to share from my heart. There's a great story in the Bible. It's an older story. It's in 2 Samuel chapter 4. You don't have to open anything. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase the story. It's about there's a guy named Saul who was the king of Israel. He had a son named Jonathan. Jonathan had a son named Mephibosheth. That's how you say it in English. In Hebrew, the way you say it is Mephibosheth. I get tongue-tied a lot, and so I want to be able to come back to champions, and so we're going to call him Bo, okay? Because there's a good chance I'll say a bad word here from the stage if I have to keep saying that name. And so when I say Bo, I'm talking about Mephibosheth or Mephibosheth. And so Bo is just hanging out, right? He's in his house one day. He's about 2-3 years old. Now, let me give a little context of what's going on in the kingdom of Israel at the time. There's a lot of conflict. David's kind of the anointed king. Saul is king. And there's a battle going on the battlefield. And Saul and Jonathan are killed. Now, when there was a transfer of power back then, when it was from a king to his son, peaceful. But it was to another person that was kind of some opposition, the new king would take out all the servants of the household. Everybody would be taken out. So this man runs into the palace and says, hey, Jonathan and Saul have been killed. So this place goes from calm to chaos quickly. Now, the version I'm going to tell you of this story is kind of my Netflix version. So you can be like, that's not there in that story. So I'm going to take some liberty when I tell this. So please forgive me today. But so in the theater of your mind, just for a moment, just sit there and just think about this, that here's Bo. He's in his house. He's playing with his, chariot transformer. He's just hanging out. And all of a sudden, this man runs in and says, hey, his dad and his grandfather have died. And so everyone goes crazy. And so they have to get out of there as fast as they can. So his nanny, whoever you want to call her, picks Bo up, and she starts running with Bo. She runs down the stairs. She makes a right-hand turn. And as she makes a right-hand turn, really, really quickly, she drops Bo. He slips out of his hands. Bo, at 2 or 3 years old, hits the ground with both his feet, and both his feet are broken. He's been dropped, and he's been broken. Now, I trip a lot. I have size 15 feet. I'm always like tripping and falling. I tell people all the time I wear black a lot because it's slimming or supposed to be. But I'm always like doing the wrong thing. I always put my foot in my mouth. I'm always saying the wrong thing. I was at the National Prayer Breakfast with President Trump spoke at this week. And so we were there with everybody, and President Trump was in the room with us. And not with us, like me and 4,000 people. It's not like I had breakfast with them, But there was a lot of different people, a lot of people in authority, and there was some generals there. And so there's one general, it was like a 3-star, 4-star general was walking towards me, and I just want to say thank you, for serving, serving our nation and everything they do. So as he walks up to me, I go, hey, thank you for serving our nation. And he had a really thick accent. He goes, on behalf of Kosovo, thank you. I'm like, oh, great, now we're the right country, I just put my head down, and my wife just starts laughing right there, So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm always like saying or doing the wrong things. But there's one time, I share this quite often, that I tripped and fell really bad. It was doing a conference in Hawaii. There was a girl named Bethany Hamilton. They did a movie about her called Soul Surfer. And so her movie had just come out when we were doing this conference. So she was like really popular at the time. And so she had spoken. I was right after her. And there was like a guy named David Crowder doing worship, and there was all the who's who of speakers were on the front row. So I was really nervous. So I'm coming up on stage, and I don't know if it was the size of the room, because there was like 5,000 families in this convention center in Honolulu, the lights, or I wasn't paying attention, probably that. But I'm walking up on stage, and I miss the step. I don't trip, I am falling, okay? But the convention center is so big, they have these big screens on the stage. And as I'm falling, it was like slow motion. I go like this, I start looking up like that, and I could see myself falling on the ground like that. Hit the stage. No one was laughing. Well, except my wife and daughter. But I want to say I've tripped and fallen a lot. But it's another thing when you've been dropped, because when you're dropped, it's not your fault. Bo was dropped that day. Now, maybe you've never been dropped, but I can tell you there's probably people in this room who have been dropped emotionally by things that have been said to you. Maybe you haven't been dropped physically, but maybe an act of being excluded or someone has left you out of something has dropped you. And because of that, it has broken you inside. I do school assemblies like it's been said, and there's a story I tell a lot in my assemblies about I was doing a high school in Glasgow, Scotland. It's actually outside of Glasgow, a town called Paisley. I say high school, they're called secondary schools, but I'm doing this assembly. It's a large auditorium, and they have this balcony, and there was all this stuff. It was packed. And I'm talking to the students, and all of a sudden, the student stands up in the top. He walks down the stairs, and I'm watching him. He comes up on the stage right next to me, and he stopped me from talking. He goes, this morning at breakfast, he goes, my parents sat me down. They said, we're getting a divorce. He goes, they pointed at me and said, it's your fault. But it's not his fault. And as soon as he said that, he was so overcome with emotion, he just collapsed right there. And before he hit the stage, I caught him. He starts crying and yelling out loud in front of the whole school. He goes, John, I don't know what I did. Sometimes the people in our lives who are supposed to love us, protect us, be there for us, who promise to be there for the rest of our lives, can be the ones who hurt us the most. If that is anyone here today, I believe I'm here on this Champion Sunday to say this to you from the bottom of my heart. And that is, I'm sorry. You don't deserve that. You've been dropped in life maybe, and I just want to say, I want to apologize for that because you didn't deserve it. But now Bo's been hurt. He's damaged, 2-3 years old, and they're going. They got to go because David's probably going to come and try to take them out. And as they're racing, trying to get away from the palace, Bo is slowing them down, and they can't keep them anymore. They're going to have to get rid of them in a way that's, someone could take care of them. And they go to a town called Lodabar. Now, Lodabar is still a place in Israel. It goes by a different name now. It's a place you can find like on Waze or Google Maps, but we don't really want to go there. It's the Wexford of the area. No, I'm just joking. It's more Mars. But I don't know why I'm saying that. But they take them to this house. And there's a house there, and they knock on the door, and they said, hey, this boy is crippled. This is who he is. People are going to try to come and kill him. Would you hide him? They said, yeah. And they put him in the back of the house, and he stays there for almost 2 decades. He stays back there. He's been broken because he's been dropped, not his fault. And now, at 3 years old, he's been abandoned. There's times in life we can feel abandoned. Things are not our fault. Things have gone on. Circumstances, situations have gone on where we just feel like we've been forgotten. And in the midst of those times, can I tell you this? When you can't track God or trace God, you could trust him. And when you can't trust him in the present, you could trace, or you can't trace him in the present, you could trust him with his history. He has a promise for you even when you feel like you've been left alone. Because those tough times when you feel abandoned, when you feel left out. Our daughter was going through a tough time when she was a senior in high school. She had traveled with us her whole life, but we started going to a private school where she would go there and come with us on the road. But going to high school was a lot more complicated, so she was in school a lot more. And for some reason, all her friends decided not to be her friends anymore. She would eat lunch in her car. It was really a really tough time. Now, we had known a lot of the school. We had actually spoken the first time the school ever got together. The principal of the school was a friend of ours. In fact, he even taught my wife when she was in high school. We were really close to everybody in the school. And I sat Jaden down one day, and I said, sweetie, I can go to the school and talk to the school. I could talk to the teachers. We're friends with the different parents of the students who are not being the nicest to you. But I want to say this to you. I'm not your savior. Jesus is. And there's sometimes in life we have to walk through some tough times. It doesn't mean God's mad at you, he's angry with you. It just means you're going through a tough time. And then my wife said this. She said, and she's the smartest person I ever met. She said, you haven't been set aside, you've been set apart. When we go through tough times in our family, we always say that. We haven't been set aside, we've been set apart. Listen to me, God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't turned his back on you. You're just going through a season where he sets you apart for something great. So 20 years go by. As Rhonda comes to the keyboard, 20 years go by, and he's in the back of this house. He's damaged, he's hurt, he's grown up. He's in his probably early 20s at this point. And David walks into the palace one day. He's been king for a while. He says, is there anybody that my friend Jonathan, that I loved, who had passed away several years ago, is there anyone I could show kindness to? And the jester of the court, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but the person of the court said to him, goes, yeah, there's a crippled boy named Bo in Lodabar. Bo thought he was hiding, but the kingdom knew his location and his circumstance. David goes, go get him. Bring him to me. So they go and they send soldiers. They go to Lodabar. They knock on the door. They said, where's Bo? And everyone's freaking out because these are soldiers. They said, he's in the back of the house. They go back there and they grab him. They put him in the chariot and they drive him to the palace. They bring him to the palace and they throw him on the ground just like a piece of trash. Then David walks in. It says two of the most amazing things I believe he's ever said. And this is my opinion. David walks in to the palace. He walks there and says to Bo, Bo, stand to your feet. You see, John, why is that so incredible? It's because of this. It's the only time in the Bible it was referred to Bo, Mephibosheth, and he doesn't call him the crippled boy. He didn't call him by his circumstance. He called him by his name. God doesn't know you by your circumstance. He doesn't label people like, oh, that person battles anxiety, or this person battles addiction, or this person's made this mistake or that mistake. He knows you by your name. And then he says, stand to your feet. His feet are still crippled. His legs are still damaged. The most painful, weakest part of his body are his feet. And with all the strength and the ability he has, he stands to his feet. And as he's standing there, probably hurting, in pain, maybe even shaking, David turns to him and says, I restored to you what you once had. You now a prince again. You will sit at my table. I give to you your inheritance, your royalty again. See, when you stand on your weaknesses, that's when God can restore you. It's the opposite of what the world will tell you. Because you need to know he wants to bring restoration even when you're broken. I was doing school assemblies a long time ago in Sacramento, California, not far from where we live. It was elementary school. I'm playing music on my phone. The kids are coming and sitting down. And a boy sits down. He has really, really bright red hair, kind of a bigger boy. He sits down, and he scoots on his bottom over to these girls and goes, hi. And the girls go, oh, and they pull away from him. So he scoots over to another set of girls and goes, hi. And they go, oh, they pull away from him. He's just trying to be nice. So I walked over to the principal. I go, hey, the boy with the red hair, what's his name? He said his name is David. What grade's he in? He's in 4th grade. I said, okay, great. I'm going to bring him up on stage. He's just trying to be nice. I'm going to honor him. So as I walk back over to change the music on my phone, David, for a third time, scoots to another set of girls and goes, hi. And the girls go, oh, and they pull away from him. But as that happens, a teacher walks over. She grabs the back of David's shirt or jacket, stands into his feet, and walks him out of the assembly, out of the hall. Well, now the principal is introducing me, and that teacher walks back into the cafeteria, actually. She doesn't have David. So I run over to her. I go, hey, where's David? She goes, he's in the office. I go, could you get him and bring him back into the assembly? She goes, you want that kid in this assembly? I go, yes, ma'am. She goes, if I bring him in here, you're going to have to deal with him. You'll have to take him home with you. I just go, can you just get him for me? And I just walked away. Well, I'm doing the assembly now. I'm ripping a phone book in half. That's a place where we used to look up phone numbers a long time ago. Just telling the kids. Anyway, thanks, Google. And then I'm about to roll up the frying pan Well, the teacher walks in with David, and she doesn't put him with his class. She puts him right next to the stage, kind of like, deal with that, and goes and sits down. So I'm doing my assembly. The last time I was here, I told my story that I grew up labeled mentally handicapped. I couldn't talk. I was a kid who ate lunch by himself. Kids would throw garbage at me. I didn't grow up playing sports. I wasn't an athlete or anything like that. Didn't go to birthday parties or anything like that. But there's one part of my story I don't always talk about. Well, I guess I do in my assemblies. And that's this. I was in 4th grade, and the school decided, because I was going through such a tough time, that they would put me back into a typical classroom. The only problem is they didn't know the teacher that I was assigned to didn't care for me. I never met her before. So one day at the end of school, I guess she just had enough. She dismisses the class and walks over to my desk. She points at me and she says these words. She said, "You will never be able to read, write, or talk. You will never graduate from high school or college. You're a throwaway." And it devastated me. So I'm telling that part of my assembly. And as I'm telling that part of my assembly, I'm looking at that teacher. Because I'm telling it, but I was mad at her. So forgive me. She just starts crying right there. I come to the end of the program, I tell everybody it's me. The kids that day were really emotional. I come to the end, I'm about to break the baseball bat. So my daughter comes up on stage and gives me a countdown from 10. She's not here today. But there's someone in the school who's here today. He's really special. He's one of the reasons I'm at this school. His name is David. David, would you come up here? So I bring David up on stage. I go, "David, I want you to know, let's watch out for each other. Let's eat lunch with one another. Let's be heroes." That's the title of my assembly, is Be a Hero. So I break the baseball bat. I take my wristband out of my pocket I made for me, like this one. I put it on David's wrist, and David goes. You can tell he's a handful. The whole school is screaming for him. They're cheering for him. They're yelling, "You're so lucky, you're so lucky." Well, David goes and sits down, not where he was at. He goes and sits with his class. And as he sits down in the class, everybody all those girls who rejected him are now coming over to him because they want to see the wristband that's on his wrist. Well, the principal comes up on the stage and says, "Everybody who helped John out throughout the program today, would you stay back and take a picture for the yearbook?" I go to the door. At the end of my program, I always stand at the door, give everyone a high five. Now, as I'm giving everyone a high five, that teacher starts walking towards me from earlier. She's not crying anymore. She's literally having a mascara meltdown. It's like running down her face, you know. I give her a high five, and I hold her hand. I said, "I'm David." And she goes, "I'm so sorry." I go, "It's okay." And I give her a hug, and she walks away. I give the last student a high five, and I walk back over to take pictures with everybody for the yearbook. And as I do, I'm walking across the auditorium, and David meets me halfway. He goes, "John, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Buddy." I go, "What's up?" He goes, "How'd you know my name?" I got down on my knee. I said, "David, before the assembly started, I saw you saying hi to everybody. I saw how nice you were. I didn't grow up with a lot of friends, but I have a feeling if you were in my school, you would have been my friend." His eyes fill with tears, and he goes, "I'm your friend now." And he gives me a hug. The reason I tell that story today is this. David had no idea, when he was just trying to be nice and he was being rejected, that I would go to the head of the school and ask his name. He had no idea when he was unjustly taken out of the assembly that I would go on his behalf and advocate on his behalf to come back into the assembly. He had no idea that I would bring him up on stage, a place of honor in front of the whole school, and the whole school would cheer for him. And he had no idea that his picture would be taken and put in a book that would last the history of that school. He didn't know that was happening behind the scenes. And this is why I can say anything today. This is why I believe that God brought me here for this right now. As I did that for David, God is doing that for you right now behind the scenes. He's doing that on behalf of your relationships. He's doing that on behalf of your career as a student in life, your emotional needs. He's doing that in every area, your finances. He's working behind the scenes, even when you feel like you're in Lodabar and no one cares. You feel like you're in a back room, abandoned by everyone, even family. I want to tell you, he knows your name. Would you bow your heads and close your eyes all over this room? Father, I pray for my friends that you would touch them. You let them know how much you love them. Oh, God.
I have a maker. He called me his own, and he'll never leave me, no matter where I go. 'Cause he knows my name. He knows my every thought, and he sees each tear that falls, and he hears me when I call.
With your heads bowed, your eyes closed, you're here today. Maybe you're here because your parents made you come. Maybe you're here someone invited you because it's Champion Sunday. Whatever the case may be, you're not here by mistake. 2,000 years ago, Jesus was on a cross. Nails didn't hold him on a cross. Love did. He could have came off that cross anytime he wanted to. But he looked down to this day, Champion Sunday. He saw your face, and he saw my face. And that's why he stayed on that cross that day. My question to you is this, as we wrap up our time: God forbid you would die today. You take your last breath. You're saying, John, I don't know where I would go, but I want this Jesus we sung about. I want this Jesus that changed your life, that changed mine. I'm not asking you to join a church or even a religion. I'm asking you to ask Jesus to come into your heart. If that's you today, you say, John, would you include me in your prayer before we wrap up our time today? I would like to ask Jesus to come into my heart. It might be one, it might be two, it might be a whole lot more, but I got to give this opportunity today. If that's you, when I count to 3, would you just put your hand up in the air and put it right back down, saying, John, include me in that prayer today. He loves you. He didn't come to take away your fun. He came to take away your pain. So when I count to 3, would you put your hand up? 1, 2, 3. Oh, I see all those hands. Thank you so much. You can put your hands back down. Thank you. My second thing is this. You're here today, and maybe you feel broken. Maybe you feel dropped. You feel abandoned. I want you to know there's a God up in heaven who wants to wrap his arms of love around you today and bring that restoration. You don't have to stand on your feet by yourself. He wants to be with you every step of the way. You're saying, John, I need God to give me some strength. So whisper words of encouragement into my ear. If that's you, say, John, would you pray for me? When I count to 3, would you put your hand up? 1, 2, 3. That's a lot of hands. Okay, you can put your hands back down. For the people who raised your hand to ask Jesus in your heart, would you say this prayer after me? My prayer doesn't save you, but the motive of your heart does. So just say it from your heart today. And wherever I'll say it to encourage those who are saying for a first time or even a rededication, and maybe you didn't raise your hand, you want to say this prayer, you go right ahead. Or you're watching online, say it wherever you're at. Everybody can hear my voice. Repeat these words after me. Everybody go, Dear Jesus, I love you, and I ask you to come into my heart and forgive me of all my sins. Today, I make you my God, my Savior, and my friend. In Jesus' name, amen. Now let me pray. Father, I pray over everybody who raised your hand today that just is tired, they're overwhelmed. God, maybe they've been pursuing a dream and they feel like giving up. Maybe they're just frustrated. They feel like, God, they can't go on anymore. Would you just give them strength? I pray for the person who's been battling sleep and toss and turns, that God, you give them peace right now. I pray for the situation that's in this room. It's a relationship between a child and the parent that, God, they feel like they're just a failure. God, let them know they're not a failure. They're not going to do everything perfectly in life, but you love them for who they are. God, thank you for loving us not by our circumstance or any label that's been put on us, but loving us for who we are, that you know our name. God, I pray that you be with every person right now, that you would just touch their hearts. I speak to financial situations, physical situations, that, God, you just touch them. As the wind blows outside, let the winds of encouragement come across this room right now. God, today, the strength you gave to me as a little boy, would you give it to them in the mighty name of Yeshua? Touch my friends. We worship you. We worship you, God.